All right, I want to go over the 4 C's of punch defense. Now I'm going to emphasize this ahead of time, that these 4 C's is kind of like a vague overview for punch defense. There's a lot of things that can go into each of these categories, but this is just a general way to approach defending strikes, defending punches. We're going to focus on it from a punch perspective, but again, you can apply this to kicks, to knees, and essentially just all forms of striking, whether it's for sport or for self-defense. So the first one is cover or shield. And again, a lot of ways that you can do this, but it's the idea that I have to get comfortable blocking his punches, right? I can slip, I can move my head, I can move my body. That's all part of defense. But again, I also just need to be able to cover and shield, especially if this person's just kind of throwing a fury of punches. Now, a few ways that we can do is I can have my hands kind of out in front, and as he's throwing these punches, I'm kind of just parrying every single punch. Again, when we're doing this, I don't want to reach. And you see a lot of newer people, when they start throwing these punches, they start trying to like reach and go ahead. They start trying to reach to block these punches, and every once in a while, one of those is going to get through, or they're going to fake one. It's going to knock you right on your ass. So I want to make sure that I'm keeping my parries tight and strong, right? I want to almost meet his energy with my energy, meet it at the same power so that I can shut that punch down right away. And I'm going to pull my hand back, right? I'm never going to block these punches and then leave my hand hanging out there. I want to block it, and my hand comes right back. The other idea is I'm just completely kind of shielding myself. Now again, I don't want to stay in this position forever, because if I get overwhelmed or flustered with this, they're going to take full advantage of that. So you have to be able to kind of go back and forth between parrying the punches and completely kind of shielding. And then I can also kind of use my elbows and arms as well, right? I can bring my head, I can pretend like I'm combing my non-existent hair, and I can bring this arm up to either absorb the punch, or I can even utilize my elbows to block it as well. So if you put all that together, if Luis here just starts kind of like working punches, right? I'm just going to kind of cover, shield, and even if we just stand still and he just works these punches, right? Right? It's just the idea that I can block it, I'm comfortable in that position. But another big detail is I'm tucking my chin and I'm keeping my eyes on him the whole time. I'm not turning my head and doing this, because that defeats the purpose, and I'm not closing my eyes, because that defeats the purpose. It's the idea that I'm covering, I'm absorbing these punches, I'm blocking the punches, I'm protecting myself, which will lead us into the second C, which is counter. When I have an opportunity, another part of punch defense is countering any opportunity that I get. And that's essentially going to shut down his attacks for a brief moment, which gives me an opportunity to either catch my breath and move. Maybe I needed to create some space, or I can now start getting on the offense, right? Good defense is a good offense. So if I can slip in a counter at some point, stop his attacks, progress from there, I can turn the tables and put him on his heels, right? So if we start from the covering perspective, right? He's working these punches, slow down just a little bit so we can kind of go slow motion for this, right? As I start kind of blocking, when I see an opportunity, I'm going to block one of those punches and just send a punch straight back, right? We do this again. I'm blocking, I see an opportunity, I send another punch. Even if it doesn't land directly, it's just the idea that now he's going to start being cautious with his punches, knowing that at some point I'm going to fire something straight back. He doesn't know quite what it is, right? I could be working towards the body, I could be throwing overhands, I could be throwing hooks. It's just that I'm seeing an opportunity, I'm throwing in that counter, and again, what that does is it disrupts his attacks, right? So if we're putting this into motion, he starts working his punches, go ahead, normal speed, right? He's working his punches. I throw in a counter. If it startles him, it stops him, whatever the case is, I can use that as an opportunity to now get on the offensive, and now I can start working my game and getting back into the fight a little bit more. The third C, closing the distance or clinching, right? Sometimes I want to get in to get out. If I'm caught up against the wall, the ropes, the corner, or I just don't want to walk backwards, right? The guy's pressuring into me a little bit too much. I'm covering, but I'm not really seeing an opportunity to counter. One option that you have is closing the distance and clinching up with the person. A couple things that I can do. I like to personally kind of drop my level a little bit and shoulder check them, just to kind of push them back, just to, again, disrupt their attacks, get back onto my offense, and see if I can't change the pace of the fight a little bit more. So that option, if he's working his strikes, right, I'm going to change my levels and just kind of check into him and just use that as an opportunity to kind of push him back, but I have to be ready to immediately go onto the attack from there. The other option that we have from there is literally just clinching up. Now again, you can do this kind of off of a counter. So if he's working these punches, maybe I see an opportunity, I throw a counter, and now I just kind of tie up with him, whether it's overhooks, whether it's underhooks, you know, what depending on what sport you're fighting in, if it's boxing, if it's MMA, whatever the case is, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to close the distance. You know, work your knees if you were able to, work elbows if you're able to, or I'm just going to tie up till the ref or whatever separates us, and then we go right back. But again, the goal with that is to disrupt his attacks so that I can start working back onto my offense, or maybe I just even need to catch my breath, right? This is a great way to kind of give yourself a moment, catch your breath, think about what's going on, disengage, and now we go back to the fight, but now he's slowed down a little bit, right? So again, the two options that we have, I change levels, check into him a little bit, create that space, and we back off. Second option that we have, work counters and just start tying up with the person, whatever the case is. Again, if this was like a street fight, let's say, That's a good way to start getting hands on them. Body lock, takedowns, whatever the case is or whatever the situation calls for. I'm using that to close the distance because again, in street fight, I'm not wearing big gloves. We got fists, so those gloves have a better chance of slipping, or those fists have a better chance of slipping through and doing some more serious damage. So sometimes my better option is to close the distance, get hands on, take them down on the ground, and do what you need to do from there. The last C is circling. Now I'm going to show this in kind of like a variety of ways. In other words, I'm trying to create space, I'm trying to create angles, because again, I don't want to be standing still, right? So we've got the cover, I'm blocking these punches. I'm going to add in the fact that you could work backwards for this, but I don't prefer to kind of like shuffle back because I know he's just going to shuffle in and we're going to stay at the same distance. So instead, I like to step backwards and change my stance. That's going to give me a little bit more space. So if he's pressuring in, he's punching me, and I step back, it starts creating a little bit more space right away. Now what that will allow me to do is either get on the offense right away, right? Maybe I start stepping back and he pressures in and I can throw a kick or I can come back with a punch. But it also gives me better opportunity to start circling without him being at the same pace or same distance. So if we're here and he's throwing punches and I just start kind of circling, he's just going to keep going with me. And again, we're the same distance. But if I take a step or two back and now I circle, I've now created a bunch of space that again allows me to catch my breath, plan out my next movement, get back on the offense a little bit more. I can also just work on sidestepping a little bit. Maybe he's working these punches and I slip out a little bit. You know, creating those angles and circling around is just another element that you have to add into your punch defense. I got to move my feet. I got to move my body. I can't give him a stationary target where he can just let the punches rip. So again, 4 C's. We've got cover. I got to block. I got to deal with all the punches coming at me. I got to protect myself. Second C, I got to counter. Any opportunity that I have, I'm throwing in extra strikes. Close the distance or clinch. Whether I shoulder check them, whether I tie up, whatever I clinch, again, I'm trying to close the distance, get hands on with them. If it's a fight in which I can grapple, that's an opportunity to do so, or you wait till the ref separates you, create some space, and we go back to fighting, right? And then the last one, circle. I gotta start creating that space, creating those angles so that again, he has to track me, he has to locate me, he has to find me, makes it a little bit harder for him to throw his attacks, which gives me an opportunity to go back on the offense. Again, a good defense is a good offense. When you put all this together from a defensive perspective, right? I'm the guy that's trying to defend myself. All 4 of these C's are not only protecting me, but allow me to get back to an offensive state faster. So if we put all this together, right? He's throwing his punches. Not only am I covering, right? I'm starting to kind of move around a little bit, make him chase me, make him move. Maybe I kind of clinch up, push back a little bit. Maybe I start throwing counters, tie up, whatever the case is. Right? And I'm just making him try and track me, try and find it. The more that I'm moving and the more that I'm putting all those elements together, the harder it is for this person to punch you and land those strikes. So if you're a beginner to striking, no matter what your discipline is, practice the 4 C's, train them, and get better at your striking, and ultimately get better at your offense. Stay safe.